I'm not sure if you caught that as you entered. Jennifer won't be able to join us today.
Yeah.
So it's okay, great.
Yeah, I heard that. Okay, I guess we're almost good to go. One
So
more.
it is live streaming now.
Okay.
I'm ready anytime you are, Mr. Chair.
Okay, unfinished business, so that's application B 2020-47. Is the applicant here? I think it's Owen Scott. Yep, I see Owen. The staff's recommending a deferral to the next meeting of March 16th. So I guess everyone's in agreement with that.
Yep,
Owen?
makes sense. It's a complicated issue.
Okay, so just give me a motion for that. Bob?
I move that
Second.
this be deferred.
Yeah, Mike, this is for the deferral. All in favor? Carried, so this is deferred. Okay. To the regular agenda. So, item A 2021-005, 52 South Drive. And for that, we have the agent or applicant. Are you online?
Yes, my name is Gurminder Singh. I'm the agent for the applicant.
Okay, the staff is recommending approval.
Excellent.
I believe without any conditions. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Motion, Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is very straightforward. They're all very minor. So I move that this be approved with no conditions.
All right, second. Scott, all in favor? Carried, thank you.
Thank you very much, committee.
Okay, next application is A 2021-006. Do we have the applicant online?
There it is.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, hello.
There we go. Okay, staff's recommending approval with some conditions. I just, before we carry forward, I noticed that there was a comment, and I'm just gonna throw this out for consideration of the members, or anyone that may be making a motion, that there was a comment that there would be, no customers coming to the site, and that this would be for, delivery only. And I'm just wondering if we should possibly put a condition into that effect as well, since this is something that would then be approved and go forward forever. Even if, let's say, that it becomes a different operator in the future, we might want to consider that for the neighborhood. So that I'm throwing out. That being said, does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes, Scott, and then Julianne. Scott?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I kind of shared your concern as well, but I also had a question for staff. I noticed that this type of business, preparation of food, would be allowed by the new zoning bylaw, so I don't really have any problem with it. I just wondered, because it was involved sale of food, whether the health unit approvals needed to be involved here, or when do they happen?
Julianne?
For you, Mr. Chair, can everyone hear me today?
Yep.
Okay, yes, I understand Mr. Hanna's question, and yes, the health approvals will be required as part of a business license. Part of them obtaining that license, they'll have to go through that process. So we've got that one covered.
Bob?
Just to follow up, Mr. Chair, on what Julianne has said, and what you had said earlier. Should we not then have a condition in there that in order to permit this, that they need to get the approval from, or apply for approval from the health department?
And what do you think? Yeah, Julianne?
it's going to be required regardless. I mean, they can't open their business without that. It's kind of one of those redundant situations, but
Right.
if you know, I think they're already in communications with the city of Kitchener for the license. This is probably how it got triggered and sent to us in terms of a zoning requirement.
It's gonna, yeah, they'll probably need one for the occupancy certificate as well.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And that then is a condition already, so I think, Bob, it's
Okay.
got you covered off it covers off your concern. Scott?
Yeah, just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to hear from the applicant, if the committee were to impose a condition that there be no customers coming to the site, whether he would be satisfied with that.
Yep. The way the business is actually set up is a subscription program, so no customers will ever enter the business or the house. It'll all be delivered to people's homes.
On that note, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to fully support the application, subject to the 2 conditions recommended by staff and 1 additional condition that you mentioned, that no customers be allowed to come to the premises.
All right, Julianne?
Might I suggest, rather than it be a condition, it's one of those things that I can't clear then if it's, because I don't know how to
Right.
clear that condition.
Right.
Could we
Make
just
it a
make it as part of
provision.
your recommendation, like in the
Yes.
recommendation part, rather than as a condition?
Yeah, that makes
Would
sense.
that be all right?
So-
Yeah.
Yep. So it would be a recommendation, part of the provisions of the
Yes,
recommendation then.
yep, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, sounds good. Anyone else? Second? Bob, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is A 2021-007.
Hi, Danny. I apologize. I did a renaming error. Rima, would you mind confirming which, we have 2 Rimas in the meeting, and the other one is Irene for Sheldon. Can you just confirm which one is Rima? You should have access to your microphone and camera now because you're both panelists. So if you could just,
This is the one I'm talking from. I'm not sure what the other one is.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And I'll
Okay,
track of the other one already.
okay, staff's recommending approval with some 2 conditions. And does anyone have any questions or comments? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I've read through the file quite extensively. I am in full support of it. I really like the innovative bike file and that they're going to be testing this. Despite the fact that it's a small area, there's lots of amenity space. A PDF came through yesterday indicating exactly what they're going to be doing. So and there's nothing from any of the other agencies, the region, GRCA. So I think this is pretty good. I think there's some concerns from one neighbor. So I'll leave it at this point. I'm in support of the application.
All right, I don't see anyone registered in opposition. Scott?
Mr. Chairman, not to muddy the waters, but I've got some concerns about parking, and I just need a little bit more from staff on a couple of items. The first is there had been a condition recommended by transportation. It was because the page numbers are not, or the pages are not numbered, it's requiring the bike parking to be provided on site at a rate of 27 Class A and 17 Class B. And if this goes forward, I'd really like to see that added as a condition. If the applicant is handy as well, I'd really like to understand from the applicant the size of these units. They're described as being compact. I would feel a lot more comfortable if we're talking about bachelor units here, like 1 person living at a time. So
Or a
I
1-bedroom?
have some concerns.
Okay. Staff,
Yeah,
Dave, do you
Mr.
want to
Chair-
address? Pardon me? Sorry,
Mr. Chair, we
Julianne.
have Richard Kelly Roots on the call with us, and he's the file planner, so he can probably answer some of the
Okay.
specifics about the proposal.
Great, thanks. Richard?
Thanks, Julianne. Through the chair, with respect to the transportation conditions, so we have added that condition and expanded a little bit further. I believe it's condition 2 in staff's recommendation, which ties any minor variance approval to the site plan. And the site plan itself notes the number of Class A and Class B bike parking spaces at 27 Class A and 17 Class B. So we've expanded that a little further to also just include the building footprint, et cetera. So that condition is captured.
Okay. Does that help you out, Scott?
A little bit. I'm curious. You seem to be, or staff seems to be treating this as a downtown site, and it's not really a downtown site. I'm just trying to understand the justification.
Yeah, through the chair. Was there any specific questions you had about the justification or any piece further to my staff report?
Well, in the paradigm report that was used by you folks to support it, they seem to be using the downtown ratios to support what they're doing. I guess I need to hear from the applicant about the size of these units, but realistically, we're talking about 6 units or 6 parking spaces for 31 units. And that kind of scares me on Highland Road.
If I may speak, I'm the agent of the applicant. My name is Rima Mazri, architect. So 29 of the 31 units are bachelor units. They're 400 square feet approximately. They're designed as single unit occupant, single person occupancy. And the other 2 units that are 2 bedrooms, they're also very small. It's about 600 square feet. And in terms of, if I may comment a little bit on the parking rationale, it is not a downtown, yet the site is very well served with transportation. And it is within a reasonable distance for walking or biking, especially biking. And that's why we increase the biking on site. So that we want to encourage the inhabitants to use biking or other modes of transportation. So that's basically the whole premise of the development. So the owner will be marketing these units to specific type of residents who are either working in around the area or downtown, and who don't own cars, basically. So like if somebody comes with a car and they want parking, they won't be given preference.
Okay, that helps very much. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Or a motion? Bob?
Yes, just a couple of quick comments, and I will be making a motion. There was an email that came in to Ms. Saunderson from a neighbor indicating that they were hoping that this would be for affordable housing, but I don't think that's something that we adjust here at the Committee of Adjustment. So having said that, I move that this be approved with the 2 conditions, unless there's any further comments.
All right. Second?
I'll second that.
Scott, or Mike, sorry, second. All in favor, carried. Thank you. Next application is, here is A 2021-008. We have someone we have the applicant, and we have someone in opposition as well. This one, there's a GRCA fee that needs to get picked up for a condition. So if we can get that taken care of, please. And I guess what we will do is maybe we'll hear from the person in opposition first, and then any concerns can be addressed accordingly. So that being said, Adam, are you online?
Hello?
Yes,
Hi, sorry about that.
that's all right.
Yes, first I'd like to thank Tim and Tim Siller and Diana. They're both really responsive to my concerns, and they were very quick to answer any questions I had and set up the meeting. So in reviewing the report for these variants, I submit that 3 of the tests that are put against this variance are failed. So the general intent of the zoning bylaw, my interpretation of the zoning bylaw is that it is meant to not only promote growth, but also protect and respect other neighbors. The writer of the report, I think, fails to consider how the other properties for this variance will be affected. While it is beneficial for the residents who would enjoy the deck, the person directly behind the residence or proposed variance, which is me, would now feel that the deck is hovering over the property and not have as much enjoyment using their yard. So the deck, there's no kind of condition on the deck right now. It could be over 0.6 meters. So I've seen a plan where the deck could be as high as 7 to 8 feet. And if you put a 5'5" person on that deck to a 6 foot tall person, it's almost like you're going to have stadium seating into my backyard. So that's kind of my concern on that aspect. And in the future, I'm just wondering if I would be supported in asking for a variance to adjust the fencing going from 8 feet to 12 feet. Another point I have is the variance minor. The total requested variances are equal to 2.4 meters. So it might be considered minor, but in totality, I believe this is more than simply a minor variance. And then this is the variance appropriate. I think the picture that is viewed on page 54 of the report, it gives a visual of my backyard and the proposed variance, but I don't think it does a good visual representation of showing the scale and size which will affect my backyard with this requested variance. Another point is, in a plan I've seen, there's excavation done to slightly lower the deck. I have concerns about the pooling of water and how the water will be drained, if there will be ponding on my property or the other variances property. So those are my concerns. And I believe that initially when these bylaws were created, they were created because there was feedback from the community about privacy and their concerns. So in my respectful submission, I submit that these variances don't adequately respect those privacy concerns.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
Through the chair, I apologize. I had some issues with Excel this morning. There is somebody else in attendance in opposition. I just wanted to make sure that got sent to you. It's Blake Bates, and he's in the meeting now as well.
Okay, Blake, we'll give you the floor right now.
Hi, do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Adam there. I know it doesn't back onto my yard so much, but this is quite a large building. I don't know if there's any more bylaws of issue. I doubt it, but it hurts my privacy basically. I'm just gonna go with what Adam was saying, really. Yeah, that's it really.
Okay, what property are you at, Blake?
33 Hearst.
33? Where's that in relationship?
To the left, if you're looking at his property.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like, I don't have a large yard, but the majority of that building, the way it's designed, all of those windows are going to be, looking directly into my backyard. And I don't know how much I have to say or, what are my options, but it's just, I don't know, it's not great.
Okay. Maybe what we'll do at this point right now is maybe we'll let staff who are recommending support of this file first address some of the concerns as they relate to the privacy issues. Julianne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the staff has evaluated this, and it's not uncommon for decks to be a little bit higher than the 0.6 meter height. I think that the concerns, I understand the concerns of the neighbors. I don't know what to say other than there has been some careful consideration of staff with respect to this request. The duplexing is something that is permitted throughout the city, especially now through provincial legislation that has encouraged not only duplexing, but even a third unit in most areas. So it's, while I understand the residents' concern, maybe there's some opportunity to speak with the property owners, and they can perhaps deal with things like screening or something like that on the deck. That's just maybe a consideration.
Sure. Scott?
I just had a couple of questions for the applicant, if the applicant is available.
Yep, I'm available.
So the first question I had is the deck that is in question here that's elevated seems to have a very strange shape to it. And if you were to reduce the deck by less than a meter, you would comply. Is there any reason why you can't do that?
The size of the deck was made to conform to the angle of the property, the rear property line, and done so to allow for an adequate sized deck and adequate amenity space. The deck generally is about three meters, so it's a little bit larger than 10 feet, or about 10 feet in depth. And yeah, it was just made that size, or proposed as that size, to actually have a functional space. After the reduction in size when you're putting a railing in, you'll lose another six inches around the perimeter. And, if I'm wanting to put patio furniture up there, or, functional use, that's why I was taken into account.
This second unit, though, also has an elevated second story kind of balcony as well.
That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I kind of support the neighbors of the rear's concerns. This particular development could fully comply with the zoning bylaw with no issues. I'm going to take offense to the setback of the deck. I have no issue with the 6 meter setback of the building.
Okay. Anyone else? Bob or Mike? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just to clarify what Mr. Hanna has said, the setback, the required setback is 4 meters, and they're providing 3 meters. I'm kind of supporting the applicant. If you take another meter off the size of that deck, you're not really going to have much of a deck at all. I do understand and appreciate the neighbors' concerns about getting along with their neighbors and backyard visibility. But as Ms. von Westerholt has said, the province is encouraging higher densities, both for better land use and for infrastructure. So I'm kind of in support of this. It's a nice addition. It'll be a 2-story addition plus a basement. It'll give extra living space for people in that area. So I'm kind of in support of this.
And
Mike?
I tend to agree with Bob on this. I think it is a reasonably attractive design. I think it utilizes the available space quite appropriately. How can you phrase the changing in the elevation? I think responds to some of the concerns of the rear neighbor. If it had been left at the existing grade, we'd be 2 feet higher. So I think we're addressing that. And just very quickly, I believe the issues of drainage and ponding appear to be, have been addressed in the drawings, with everything, it looks like sloping to the street rather than the backyard area. So I'm in support of the application as it is submitted, and support a motion in that effect, to that effect.
Okay, so Mike's just made a motion to support the application in accordance with staff's recommendation. Is there a second on that one? Bob, all in favor? Carried, all opposed? Scott, okay, thank you. Okay, next application is, hang on here. A 2021-009, and that's 268 Louisa Street. We have the applicant online, Eric. Staff's recommending approval without any conditions. I didn't see any other notes or any other comments from any other agencies. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Motion, Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think this is fairly a straightforward one, just some side yard setbacks. And numerically, they're fairly minor. There's no other agencies that have made comments. There's no neighbor concerns. So I move that this be approved without conditions.
Okay, Scott?
I'm going to second the motion. I just wanted to make a comment that this is a very tastefully done addition. In fact, the variances reflect the existing location of the existing building. The addition actually fully complies. So that's the difference between this one and the last one.
Okay, so that's a second. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next application is B 2021-004, B 2021-005. We've got people in support. Now, there's also a bell condition that needs to get inserted. We need to pick that up and put it in here as well. Okay, questions, comments, motion, guys? Scott?
I had some trouble reviewing this application, Mr. Chairman, and there is also a condition being recommended by the region, which I have a lot of concern with, and that has to do with the record of site condition. So if the applicant could help me understand the application a little better, the small kind of, I'm going to say rectangular parcel, is that being added to 138 Victoria, or is it going the other direction? That would be helpful to start.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Kevin Muir, GSP Group, we're the agent for the applicant and the owner. Just the sort of the backstory of this is as you see on page 3 of the staff report, the pink area, this is a rather large assembly of land, a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle under 4 or 5 different registered owner names, all within a common ownership umbrella, I would say. So essentially that blue area would be a lot addition from one owner within the umbrella to a second one. So it
Can I help with the applicant? We get a black and white version of these reports. So
sure. Sure. The area on the 3rd page, so it's identified as application B.
Correct.
That square essentially would be added to the front portion of 138 to make 138 Victoria a whole lot again.
Okay. And what is your intended use of 138? What's going on there now? It looked like a vacant building. What are you intending there?
Currently it is a residential building, 2 units rented. It's a commercial enterprise in that sense. Right now there's larger plans that are underway in process for the larger land holding. It's not including this property at this time. In the course of time, it makes sense that this would be a land assembly together with the abutting properties at 130 and 142. But there's nothing in the works at this time. There's discussions with the abutting property owner, and that's it.
So you're aware that the region has asked for a record of site condition on this little tiny consent. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to be happening during the zoning stage of this, not now?
Hi there. My apologies to interject. My name is Matthew Colley. I'm the regional planner from the region of Waterloo that comments on consent applications. I would note that originally the region was asking for the record of site condition as a result of the region's implementation guidelines and figures in our threat inventory database. However, the region has met with the applicant on numerous occasions over the past few weeks, as well as city staff, and understand that there is a special provision in the city's zoning bylaw that would trigger a record of site condition at a later date for any redevelopment of these lands. And so therefore, I'm here to speak to the fact that the region is agreeing that the condition for a record of site condition is no longer required.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so we'll amend the recommendation and the condition, that condition is accordingly, and remove that then?
It hadn't been included, Mr. Chairman, so I'm satisfied that it's,
Yeah, it's
actually, no, it is. It's number 5. You're
It's
right.
Number
Thank you.
5.
Yep.
Item
Okay.
number 5, right?
Yep.
So we remove item number 5 then is that condition.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're removing condition number 5 and we're inserting a Bell condition that they've asked for. Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. With regards to the request from Bell, these have just started showing up over the last year. We didn't used to have them. And on a number of occasions in consulting with staff, we have previously in other applications essentially ignored the requests from Bell. I'm a little confused as to which way we should proceed in this regard. So that's question number 1. And in comment number 2, this is probably the largest easement that I've ever seen on my term as on this committee. And in reading through, there's some confusion as to the exact nature and purpose of this easement, but then there's also indications that it is just going to be for access to the back lots of the other properties. And with the explanation from, I think it was the applicant, that the long-term aspect of this is that all these properties will be consolidated under one ownership, if I understand correctly. Can someone clarify that for me, please?
Evan?
So again, to go back to that page 3 graphic, the severance sketch, I'm not sure what you can see in terms of the overall boundary of the land assembly. So that is currently under one ownership umbrella, I'll call it, recognizing there's probably 4 or 5 different registered names. They're all owned by the same entity. The easement is only for the existing laneway at the back of 130, 138, and 142 Victoria. So that's the area that's identified application A. So it is rather short stretch from Bram Street over an existing easement. And again, that is essentially just to formalize a legal access potentially for those 3 properties along Victoria.
A quick question for you while we have you here, Kevin. Do you have any objection to Bell's request for their condition?
I'd have to defer it back to staff, I think, on that. I think the one concern I would have is what those properties, what the laneway looks like in the future through the proposed applications that we would expect in the next 3 months, I would say, for the larger land holding. I can't say at this time what the laneway looks like and where the infrastructure in that laneway is. And secondly, I think it certainly doesn't prevent easements to be addressed as part of those applications as well, OPA, ZBA, and likely down the road, the draft plan of condominium. Mm-hmm. So I think it's better suited to be addressed through discussions with Bell at that time rather than slapping it essentially on now with a condition that may change in the future.
Julianne?
I just wanted to address Mr. McCall's question earlier about this easement. Yes, we haven't applied it in the past because they are not considered like the same status as a commenting agency. They're another property owner. And so that's why we haven't applied it in the past. But I did also see Mr. Stevenson's hand was up as well. I don't know if he had any additional information to add with respect to that, but that's why we haven't applied it in the past, Mr. McCall.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would concur with Mr. Muir that these lands will redevelop in some form. There's currently Bell Infrastructure, which is one of several telecommunication providers within our region, and they have equipment currently on private property that is serving multiple properties. I think it's best to determine where those should be relocated once we have site plan applications and a development concept for these lands.
All right, Scott?
I agree wholeheartedly with staff because this is the first phase of a larger piece of the puzzle where we're going to get other applications, which we may or may not see as variances someday, but who knows?
Okay, fine. So anyone willing to make a motion? Unless there's anything further, Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm a little confused, and maybe it's partially because the reports we get are in black and white. The easement is only for the little triangle or a rectangle coming off of Bram Street, whereas it appears to me on page number 3 that the easement is covering the whole lot, including all the way up to Park Street and Victoria Street. So can someone clarify for me that it is just the little rectangle at the top coming off of Bram is for the easement, not the whole properties?
Scott?
I would say to my fellow colleague, that is correct. It's just to provide access to lots 10, 9, and 8 as you're seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you very much.
Okay. Motion, anyone? Scott?
I'm prepared to move both consent applications for the lot addition and the easement. The lot addition without condition number 5. And I can't remember, Mr. Chairman, whether there was any other fees that had to be added here.
No, I think the rest were picked up. GRC
Okay, thank you.
is in number 4. And I think that was it.
Yeah.
Okay. Bob?
So, Mr. Chair, I move that this be approved as amended with removal.
Scott just did that.
Scott already did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have your volume off there, Bob?
Yeah, okay, then I will second that.
Yeah, and he covered off that we're taking out item number 5, condition number 5, and there's no Bell condition. So I would gather then that's a second, right, Bob? Okay, all in favor?
Affirmative.
Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is B 2021-006. And we just have the applicant, Maria, online. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Scott?
Mr. Chairman, I have no real issue with the application. I just want the committee to consider adding a second clause to condition 13. When you're demoing this minor addition, you're going to have to repair the exterior wall of this house, and the building department was asking for a building permit to be obtained for remedial work, and that wasn't included in the staff recommendation. So I'd like to include the wording at the end of condition 13, just so the numbers stay the same, that a building permit shall be obtained for any remedial work upgrades that may be required by the building code assessment.
Julianne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to also mention that there's been a request to amend condition number 9 regarding the phase 1. Because the phase 1 has already been done a couple of years ago on a previous consent, and our engineering staff has agreed to accept an addendum to that report rather than require an entire new phase 1 for this particular property. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention. I see the applicant is here, Maria. She could probably speak to that a little bit more. Maria also has is an engineer, so she can probably answer anything specific to that as well.
Okay, just before we carry on then, Julianne, you're recommending that condition number 9 is removed in its entirety then, is that correct?
That it be amended, that,
Amended,
um,
okay, amended.
Yeah.
To update.
to
phase-
accept and to update, to engineering has agreed to accept an addendum to a previous report, rather than require an entire new phase 1 be done. Okay?
Okay, and then just quick question, Maria, that phase 1 did not recommend it going further to a phase 2, did it?
Correct. It was sufficient. The phase 1 was sufficient for the application.
Okay, all right.
I
Okay.
just have a question to Mr. Hannah's point through you, Mr. Chair. Condition 12 requests a permit be obtained for the demolition. And I believe that permit would cover any requirement to fix up the facade of the existing building. So I think adding anything to condition 13 might be redundant, but that's just sort of my take on it.
Unless Scott, you want to incorporate that into condition 12?
Well, my experience is demolition permits are separate from building permits. So I would request that my condition 13 be expanded as per my wording. Thank you very much.
And just state that it will be applied for, correct?
Yep.
Okay. It's an application. Then it's easier to clear that way.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just have one question actually related to condition 10.
Mm-hmm.
There's a request to provide monies for future sidewalk in addition to the road widening block. I'm just wondering, this parcel has been through consent a couple times and that was never a requirement. So I'm just wondering what has triggered that request during this application. If staff could
Answer that, sure.
let me know,
Yep,
that would be great.
Dave?
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair. That is something that we typically would ask for any severance on a separate portion. I'm not sure why it wasn't asked for previously. Maybe it was an oversight on the application at the time, but we've caught it now. And we will be asking just for the severed portion for sidewalk.
I would imagine, Maria, it was probably an oversight. I've chaired this for 19 years now and I've always seen it, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
All right, so Scott, you have a motion, I gather, on the floor, do you not? Or
I can make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that the application be supported, subject to the conditions recommended by staff with a modification to condition 9, that the owner submit an addendum to a phase 1 environmental assessment, leaving condition 10 in and adding my expanded wording to condition 13.
All right, second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is B 2021-007. And we've got 2 people in support. There's a regional fee that we need to get put in here as a condition as well. Please. Any questions, comments, or motion?
Mr. Chair, I'm just having some trouble hearing you. I don't know. I can hear all the others quite fine, so.
How's that? A little better?
Much better, thank you.
I was too far away. Oh, my volume's down too. Okay,
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes,
Now I'm
that's
having
great.
a little,
Thank
I'm
you.
having a little trouble with the video. The picture just got really scary there for a minute.
Yeah, I know. I say that every morning when I wake up. Okay, so we need to pick up the regional fee in this recommendation or condition. And does anyone have any questions or comments? Scott?
Just a quick question for the applicant, Mr. Chairman. Do they have any issue with the Part 4 designation on the Ontario Heritage Act?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the church is aware of the heritage interest in the property and is supportive of the recommendation.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Anyone else? Or a motion? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm prepared to move this as submitted, but I'm just going to take a slight brief aside and say hi to Mr. Massio. It's been, I think, about 10 years
Bob.
since I last talked to him. Good to see you again, sir. So back to the issue. I approve that, or I move that this be approved. Makes sense to me.
All right, second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last application is B 2021-008. We have someone in support, someone in opposition. John, we'll hear from you first. You're in opposition, so are you there, John?
Through the chair, it doesn't appear that the gentleman has logged on this morning.
Okay. And unfortunately, we can't hear from him. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Motion? We've seen this happening quite a few times in this neighborhood, so it's a fairly straightforward application. Scott?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a really good consent to sever. It looks like the lot compared to some of the others in the area is large and in keeping with the province's wishes and that we intensify it. This looks like a great application. So I'm prepared to move it, subject to the conditions recommended by staff.
Okay, second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. There we go. We're done for the morning. Meeting to adjourn. Bob, second. Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thanks.
I guess that means I go out and shovel snow now.
You're off to show.
See you later, guys.
See you later.